The eye. Here are your priming questions. First, let's start with the anatomy of the eye, and the ones that are important for us are going to be the iris, the pupil, that tells you how much light is going to be sent into the eye, and then we have our retina on the back, and that is where the image is formed from our lens, and the cornea is the outside, and which light also passes through to get through the pupil into the lens, and then ultimately through the vitreous humor, and then to the retina, and then from the retina it goes to the optic nerve and then goes to our brain. Now what's interesting about the eye is when it's in its normal relaxed form, so like when you wake up from sleep, it's actually out of focus, and you actually have to spend a little bit of time, usually just a moment, where your muscles that control the lens will actually reshape it a little bit so that you can bring it into focus. And so you actually will squint a little bit and you will reshape the lens so that it is in focus. And what you'll also notice here is with this ray diagram, you can see the top of the dog's head over here. When it comes in, it actually will invert, it will flip, and where it goes into focus is going to be on the back of the retina, and it'll be upside down. And so the image that our eyes actually receive is an upside down image that is sent to our brains. And we're going to talk about what this means for us and what our brains do with that. So in the meantime, think about what this means, and we'll discuss more in class. Now, there are a couple of different types of sightedness, if that makes sense. We have hyperopia and we have myopia. Hyperopia is just another term for farsightedness, which means that you can see things from far away really well, but when things get up close, it gets blurry or fuzzy. And the reason for this, well, one of the reasons I should say, is either your lens focuses too far back, so it hasn't focused yet by the time it hits your retina, or it could actually be the shape of your eye being too narrow. In this case, you can see it's squeezed side to side, or it could also be an issue with your cornea, but usually it's going to be the shape of the eye itself. Now, the way we correct this, so if, in this case, if it's not focusing early enough or soon enough, then we want it to focus earlier. So we would want to use a converging lens. And so you use a converging lens, so you converge it a little bit before it hits the eye. And so by the time it hits the eye, it's already converging, and it will focus earlier in the right place onto your retina. And so for hyperopia, we use a converging lens so that it can focus properly on the retina. Now for myopia, this is nearsightedness. This is when you can see things that are close by in focus, but once you go further out, you can't see as well and things become blurry. And typically, for the reason for this is going to be an elongated eye, or it could also be an issue with the lens. And so in this case, you can see that when the parallel light rays come in this case, again, they invert, but it focuses too soon, too early. And so by the time it gets to the retina, it's already out of focus again. And so, in this case, the type of lens that we would need is something that can cause it to diverge a little bit so that it pushes where it focuses back onto the retina. And so we would use a diverging lens in front of our eye so that it diverges a little bit before it converges with our lens so that it can focus in the right spot onto our retina. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about quickly is astigmatism. And astigmatism typically is a deformity in the lens itself, which means that it has multiple focal points. So this is going to be when the lens isn't properly shaped. And so when you have a lens that isn't properly shaped and you have multiple focal points, this is why they commonly say astigmatism is like double vision or even triple vision, and it produces a blurry image because you have multiple images basically laid on top of each other, and so it becomes blurry because you have the multiple focal points. And so you can see this is just another diagram for nearsightedness, farsightedness, and then you also have astigmatism. And then what I want you to think about is, how does laser correction work? So I know a lot of people have had laser eye surgery, and so I want to quickly talk about that and some of maybe the issues with that, with the way it corrects. So laser eye surgery can correct astigmatism, myopia, hyperopia, and yeah, so we'll talk about that in class. And here are your priming questions again, and we'll discuss this in class.